Can I survive 100 days in a PvZ Nuzlocke? Last time, we conquered ancient Egypt and its annoying sandstorms. But this time, the difficulty vastly increases within the pirate seas, as they take away almost a third of the map every level and include much more speedy and tanky enemies such as the seagull zombie and imp cannons. Oh, and don't forget the worst of them all. The parrot, the incarnation of all that is evil within the 7 seas. And in case you haven't seen the previous Nuzlocke challenge, let me quickly go over the rules for you. Rule number 1, if a plant dies, it's dead forever. Rule number 2, all plants must be level 1. Rule number 3, no power-ups or Zen Garden. Plant food is allowed, but no buying it with coins. Rule number 4, instas and semi-instas can be brought into every level, but can only be used once per level. Rule number 5, shoveling is allowed, but I cannot shovel a plant that is currently being eaten or about to be destroyed. And 2 more additional things I'm adding, not particularly complete rules, but small features to make the challenge more fun and interesting. Number 1, intensive carrot now acts as a revive token for a lost plant of my choice. And number 2, I get a token to choose one insta plant to use as many times as I want throughout the run. But once the plant is selected, I can't change it. Okay, that's enough rule explaining. Let's enter the dead man's booty. For day 1, I was given the choice between snake lily, meteor flower, and potato mine. And of course, I chose meteor flower. Day 1 starts with me placing sunflowers, who from last time are named disposable because they aren't very good and will be replaced as soon as I get a different sun producer. I tried to stall this first zombie until the last second, but I forgot that my pea shooter wasn't max level anymore, so I had to quickly place a walnut to defend it. After I got a solid row of pea shooters down, I saved up my sun and bought my first meteor flower, who, if you didn't know, summons 2 meteors that can attack any zombie on the screen, and the meteors do initial damage as well as leaving a pool of lava beneath the zombies doing a lot more damage. So yeah, it's a pretty broken plant. It should hold up for a long time, right? After day 1, I was given a pretty tough choice. Power Lily or the legend, Dookie. But what was going through my head at this time was that I need more damage, and the goo pea shooter is the perfect plant for damage. So I chose it. Day 2 starts with me planting disposables and dookies who take care of the early zombies, and then I plant a couple meteor flowers. Now this setup would have been enough to easily beat the first 10 days of ancient Egypt, but they started struggling on day 2 in Pirate Seas. I almost lost Dookie to the imps that popped out of the barrel, but thankfully the meteor flowers were there to save the day. After day 2, we were given these 3 choices, and if y'all saw the last video, Explodovine came in clutch, so I chose it here as well. Peanut and sweet potato are kind of meh for this challenge, so I didn't really care for them. Oh, also quickly, if you end up enjoying the video, consider subscribing. Day 3 starts off calm and simple with dookies and disposables, later planting a meteor flower. But then too fast for my brain to comprehend, tragedy struck. The devil had appeared for the first time without my knowledge, and in a vile manner flapped its wing to the poor Dookie. I neither had enough sun for Explodovine nor fast enough reflexes to plant food. And there it was, like a repetitive nightmare. I had once again lost Dookie as the first plant to the villainous zombie forces. And here lies Dookie. May you rest in peace. But back to the game. I was panicking and plant fooded the meteor flower for some reason, which took out the rest of the level. After day 3, we're blessed with a good sun producer, Sponge. Goldbloom is also good, but for the time being, Sponge is the better option. Day 4 started off with rapid sponges and sunflowers. I placed a meteor flower to take care of the first zombie, but then the game read my playbook and threw in a surprise pirate. So I quickly planted a pea shooter and then plant fooded it so that the meteor flower would target the pirate, and it did, but it sold, and threw its second meteor in a random spot, not killing the pirate. So again, I was forced to plant a pea shooter and waste another plant food. You know I've reached the trenches when I'm forced to use 2 plant food on the most basic zombies of the entire challenge. We need some damage in the next plant picks. I placed some walnuts and attackers down, and all was going swimmingly until this barrel got dangerously close, forcing me to use another plant food. There was a cannon as well, but it was handled fairly easily. I'm a little iffy on these meteor flowers. The random meteors are kind of selling me too often. After day 4, we got who might be my new GOAT, Will Smith, aka Headbutter Lettuce. Someone under the last video commented that Sweetheart Snare was also pretty broken, but we'll get to that later on. Day 5, I ditched using the sunflower and stuck to just using sponges. I stalled as long as I could, and then the last second placed Will Smith. A column of Will Smith is enough to take care of the early game as I get down my meteor flowers for the long range. And these 2 combo together are able to easily defeat all of day 5. After day 5, we're given some interesting choices, and I ended up choosing the new Cornfetti Popper because its description said that it pushed zombies back, and stall was what I was looking for now. Day 6 started identically to day 5, but with the addition of Cornfetti Popper, who I'd never used before, so I carelessly placed it up front and then the game suddenly sent a Gargantuar. I was a little scared, but when the Gargantuar reached the corn, it got knocked back, and I thought, oh, it's actually pretty good, and we'll just keep doing that. It in fact did not keep doing that, and got decimated by the Gargantuar. And y'all might have noticed that I'm extremely zoomed in, and I don't know how to tell y'all in an easy way, so I'm gonna just rip the band-aid off. You know the imp that the Gargantuar launched? It might have somehow killed the meteor flower. GG's, bruh. I might be cooked. Let's slay them next to Dookie. We've already lost more plants in the first 6 days than we did in the entirety of the last Nuzlocke. That's kind of crazy to think about. After day 6, we got the guard killer, Levitator. Witch Hazel's good, but Levitator just works much better in this challenge. Oh, and I'll name you Floaty. Day 7, I couldn't figure out how to do my placements. All the tiles felt so feeble, like anything could get eaten or carried away from anywhere. Just to not have a meteor flower incident, I double protected the Levitator because it's much more important for the late game. These cannons are kind of annoying with only melee plants because they can't hit it and I just have to wait for it to explode. But look at this imp though. Brother hitting the moonwalk of death. Ooh, I want to play Billie Jean so bad, but that would be the fastest copyright strike ever. After day 7, I was given some solid choices and I ended up choosing Pyrovine as it does the most damage out of these 3. Day 8 started like any other, but I brought in Pyrovine and placed them underneath the sponges in case imps were launched in front of them, and also replaced the back layer of sponges with floaties just for extra precaution. And these defenses were enough to get me through this level and send the imps into the stratosphere. After day 8 was the return of Spider-Man, one of the most broken plants for this challenge, and a direct upgrade to Levitator. But although Blast Spinner is good, a major problem ends up occurring with it later on, stunting its full usability. Day 9 was a pretty easy day as a few Spider-Men and Will Smiths teamed up to go against the 2 huge waves and unsurprisingly beat them. After day 9, I was given some okay choices and I was a little conflicted between Peppermint and Peavine and ended up choosing Peavine since there are no gravestones in Pirate Seas and that's what I usually use Peppermint for. Day 10 had 3 flags, meaning big clumps of zombies, but thankfully no Gargs, so Spider-Men were able to handle the long range and Headbutter Lettuce took care of anything that came too close. And with that, we beat day 10. After day 10, we're blessed with Primal Sunflower, and I'll name you Stonks. Day 11, I replaced Sponge with Stonks, which greatly increased the sun production. I also brought back Levitator instead of Blast Spinner because I felt like the missing tiles really hindered the Blast Spinner's abilities, and since Levitator can target anywhere on the map, it was the better option for now. My offensive plant was still mainly Headbutter Lettuce, and this all was enough to beat 2 flags on day 11. After day 11, we got another returning member, Bartholomew, aka Powervine. It was pretty good at long range damage dealing. Electric Blueberry is good, but its long 45-second recharge heavily nerfs it as you can only get a couple down every level, so it's not really a good option for this challenge. By day 12, things had started looking better as we got some solid plants for our defenses to replace the previously lost ones, but the game noticed that it was looking too good, so it sent in a crazy amount of barrel rollers, which I didn't pay attention to because they hadn't been a problem so far. But as I was focused on other things, this barrel roller smushed one of my Will Smiths, making this maybe the most devastating day of the run. After losing Will Smith, I panic plant fooded, and the only goal in my mind for this level was to just survive and not completely lose everything. But as this level had 4 flags, it started to seem too difficult, but with a couple more plant food and panic place plants, we're able to make it through without any casualties. Let's lay Will Smith to rest. I won't lie to y'all, after this incident, I almost restarted the entire run, but kept going knowing I still had some solid sun production and a couple attackers. After day 12, we're given these 3 options, and I chose Apple Mortar for damage, and as I mentioned last time, I'm allergic to apples, so Apple Mortar is given the name Enemy. Day 13, you can tell everything was in shambles, because the first attacking plant I planted was Levitator. It was only 1 flag though, so nothing too serious. There was 2 problems though. One problem with Apple Mortar was its cost being $250, which is pretty hefty, and then the second problem was with Blast Spinner, and it was its recharge. This defense won't hold up for too long. Day 13, we're given these 3 choices, and last video I would have said all of these suck, but a lot of people in the comments told me that Turkey Pole is actually really good at stalling and doing damage to Gargantuars, so I chose it. Day 14 starts, and let me just warn you that the next many levels are the ugliest PvZ I've ever played. No symmetry, no valid strategy, just surviving off hope and prayers. Like look at this, why am I staggering these 2? This day in particular wasn't too bad as it only has 2 flags and no parrots to disturb my defenses, so I beat it with no plants being lost. After day 14, I was given these 3 choices, and a normal person would choose Electro P, but I chose Explode-O-Nut because I was developing a strategy, and in this strategy, I'd bring in one of the many useless plants in my arsenal just as a sacrifice for when one of the important plants is about to get eaten. And I'll name this strategy the Sucky Sack. And on day 15, Operation Sucky Sack took effect. There were just too many seagull zombies being sent, and none of my plants could deal enough damage to deal with them safely, alongside me having no more plant food to use, because those were used on protecting the important plants from parrots. So sadly, Walnut was used as a sacrifice to stall the seagulls just long enough for the other plants to defeat them. And with that, we beat the rest of the level. Let's lay to rest the Walnut. You will be missed. After day 15, we chose maybe the most run-changing plant of the entire challenge, Sweetheart Snare. We'll explain why it's so powerful as we begin to put it into play, and I'll name you Widow. Day 16 is a perfect example when I mentioned that things were getting a little ugly. The symmetry had left the building. You can even see that I was trying to keep it kind of symmetrical, but then atrocities like this would happen out of panic. Like, why is there an Explodo Nut behind the apple mortar? Why are there Sweetheart Snares here? They can't even hit flying zombies. Everything was awful, but even though it was awful, we still somehow beat this level with no casualties. Oh yeah, this is one of the reasons that Sweetheart Snare is OP. It's basically invincible. It literally can't be killed by anything in Pirate Seas, and it slows and deals damage. Granted, the damage is very atrocious, but the slow effect is very good. After day 16, I immediately chose Wintermelon because Scaredy Shroom sucks, as we learned from last time, and Guacodile is only good when it dies. Also, Wintermelon was basically the pinnacle of power at one point in PvZ2. Day 17 started off with solid sun production and fell off immediately because this blast spinner couldn't take care of this basic zombie, so I had to plant food this apple mortar and Pyrevine. Then a few seconds later was forced to place this Explodo Nut as a semi-sacrifice, who I actually ended up saving using another apple mortar plant food. This challenge had become chaos. The third column from the left literally has 4 different plants in it. An unspoken hero in this early game was Pyrevine, basically carrying my damage, and it's proved its worth, so I gave it the name Blaze. With these awkward placements, we're able to take down level 17. Afterwards, we're given these 3 who all kind of suck for this challenge, so I ended up just choosing the mint. Day 18 was very scary a couple times because the 1 flag levels don't give you much time to prepare, and all my plants just have atrocious recharge rates. So the quickly approaching zombies almost ate my Pyrevines, but thankfully their damage was just good enough to hold them off, and with that, level 18 was beat. After day 18, I chose this pea launcher thing because I thought it was part of the appeasement family and could combo with the pea vine, but it's actually a part of the armament family, which is the lobbing plant family. Day 19 shows why I was starting to semi-dislike Turkey Pulp. I really wanted it to be a main contender in the lineup and take care of the early game and Gargs later on, but it would do this for some reason. It would shoot a turkey at a zombie, but if it was really close, the turkey would just run off, leaving the Turkey Pulp itself vulnerable and unreliable. Day 19, I had also left behind Sweetheart Snare because it wasn't really working within the strategy, but don't worry, it comes back later on. And with some solid defenses, we're able to beat day 19 with a little difficulty. After day 19, I chose Infinite because I thought that it blocked the parrots for some reason, and I'm pretty sure now that it doesn't do this. But on the bright side, it is basically a self-regenerating and almost unkillable wall plant. Day 20 was a 1 flag level with parrots and barrel rollers, and the parrots made me use some plant food to fight them off. But the barrel roller actually ended up getting completely stopped by the Infinite's plant food, which I thought was pretty cool. The rest of day 20 was easily beat. After day 20, I chose Blover, who all named Gust. Day 21, again, Turkey Pulp almost sold on the first zombie, and I was forced to use a plant food, but some Blaze spam was able to handle all that was sent within this level. After day 21, I was debating between Jalapeno and Banana Launcher, and I actually chose Banana Launcher just in case the imp cannons got too annoying. Day 22 had 2 flags, and I decided to bring in Wintermelon, knowing it slows and does solid damage. The only problem was that the Wintermelon heavily worked against the Pyrevine's fire. There was also another major problem that occurred this level due to the parrots, and that was a loss of Explodivine. I noticed the parrot attach onto the Explodivine, but thought that the damage from the Wintermelon and Pyrevine would be more than enough, but for some weird reason it wasn't, and the parrot flew off with it. RIP Explodivine. We were able to beat the rest of the level pretty easily though. After day 22, I was given some pretty good choices and chose Goldbloom, because although I can only use it once per level, the early burst of sun would be a major help in getting all my primal sunflowers down fast. Day 23 was a very pivotal level because I had a great idea. Remember that token that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the one that allows me to use one instaplant as many times as I want for the rest of the run? Well, I decided to finally use it, and the instaplant I chose was Blover. I was getting tired of dealing with the parrots, and Blover would solve that problem almost entirely, as well as beating the seagulls instantly as well. So all I would need to focus on would be just the Gargantuars or barrel rollers. Day 23 itself was pretty easy with one Gargantuar set at the end, who was infinitely stalled with the Turkey Pulps and then destroyed by the blast spinners. After day 23, we are given another very good plant, Imitator, who same as last time is named Nubs. Day 24, I decided to test out the banana launcher because the level had cannons, but it actually did really well against everything else as well. It was given some help with the stall of Sweetheart Snare, and then Pyrovine would beat any zombies that got too close, but the bigger clumps were all beaten with banana launcher. After day 24, we're given another one of those plants that shines in this challenge, Nightcap. She's invincible and can basically take care of all the non-Garg zombies by herself. The only thing that holds her back slightly is the big cost. Day 25, with the addition of Nightcap, I finally felt a small sense of relief, knowing it was one plant I could just rely on surviving a crazy attack. There was a good chunk of Gargs sent this level, but the amazing stall from the Sweetheart Snare and Blast Spinner comboed with the damage of the others, and they were able to beat it without any casualties. After day 25, I chose Tile Turnip, another pretty good plant. It would have been much better if I'd used my token on Power Lily, but it still does an okay job without the Power Lily support. Day 26 was finally a level with some normal placements, as the Nightcap and Sweetheart Snare combo beat most of the zombies, and then the Primal Sunflowers were slowly replaced by Blast Spinner to beat the pretty crazy amount of Garg sent. There was a pretty big problem though. The Sweetheart Snare being placed made it so that the Blast Spinners couldn't cocoon the zombies because there was no place for the cocoons to land, so I was going to have to change the strategy just a little bit. But even with this problem, we beat day 26. Afterwards, I chose Iceweed, who is pretty good, but sadly gets destroyed by Gargs and Barrel Rollers after 3 hits. Day 27, my solution to the Blast Spinner Sweetheart Snare problem was replacing the Blast Spinner with Levitator, so that the Sweetheart Snare could stall and the Levitator could still float zombies off the map. I got Nightcaps and Sweetheart Snares down, and then afterwards just spammed Blover for all the flying zombies, and with that we beat day 27. Afterwards, I was given some not so good choices and chose Snake Lily. Day 28 was basically the same strategy with the addition of banana launchers for the imp cannons. The banana launchers face gets so weird when you click on them to activate. After day 28, I chose this poison ball thing and searched up what it actually did, and to my surprise, it was an insta-plant, so that was just a wasted choice. Day 29, we quickly got all our sunflowers down because the imitated primal flower with the gold bloom is a pretty crazy combo, and then as no Gargs were sent, the rest were dealt with the use of the 2 invincible plants. After day 29, I chose Boingsetta. Day 30, the main difference was that I brought in Power Vine for the imp cannons instead of banana launcher, and honestly this worked pretty well for destroying them fast and without constant attention. It's so weird just seeing the barrel rollers walking between the Sweetheart Snare without killing it, and the rest of this level was also beat easily. After day 30, I was given some pretty good choices and went with Iceberg Lettuce for that full map plant food freeze. Day 31, you can see how efficient the Sun Producer combo is because I'm able to get down all 10 primal sunflowers right as the first zombie reaches the 5th tile, which is insane. There were no Gargs this level, which usually means the Nightcap should be enough, but the imp cannons of this world are at times a problem because the imps have a chance to get launched into that 3rd tile, and most of the time the Nightcap is enough, but once in a while the imps get a hit off, which over time is a problem. So I actually started to place Levitator just for some extra security against these. Aside from that, the level was beat. After day 31, I chose Gumnut. I don't ever use it, but it's one of the cooler plants. Day 32 had the worst combo of zombies, which included the Gargs, cannons, and parrot zombies. Thankfully, it was only 2 flags, so there weren't large clumps of them, and these small defenses were enough to hold them off. But the tricky part was the parrots, because they're so tiny that I sometimes catch them last second with the blower. Also, without Sweetheart Snare, I would have definitely already lost, because the stall is amazing. And with that, this level was also beat with no deaths. After day 32, I chose Kernel Pull, who in theory should be really good, but it really only shines when plant fooded, and since I already have Blover, there isn't much need for it at the moment, but it's better than the other 2. Day 33 was a scary level because it had imp cannons and 4 flags, but since there were no Gargs, I traded out the Levitator for banana launcher. And although there was a lot of micromanaging with the launchers, there was no parrots, so I could focus entirely on just the cannons after my defenses were all prepped. And with this trustworthy strategy, level 33 was beat. After day 33, we had some pretty interesting options because all 3 are good, but I ended up choosing Parsnip as sort of a replacement for Head Butter Lettuce. Day 34 was a nightmare level, as it had 4 flags and both cannons and pirates, so it was a ton of micromanaging the banana launchers and Blover. There was also a lot of close calls with the parrots, since there were so many zombies that it was difficult to see if any of the pirates carrying the parrots were being sent, but thankfully I was fast enough that no plants were carried off into the atmosphere. After day 34, I chose Gloomvine, who again would have been much more helpful if I'd gotten it earlier in the run. Day 35, I brought back the Levitators as the the Gargs had returned, but this level wasn't very difficult in any way, so we beat it with these simple defenses. After day 35, I chose Power Lily, who kinda lost all its value when I used the token on the blower because just one plant food per level isn't worth the one slot that the Power Lily takes up. Day 36 had 2 flags with Gargs and Parrots, but it was beat without much of a challenge either because not too many were sent. After day 36, I chose Bramble Bush because from its description it just seemed like the mini version of Sweetheart Snare, but my guess is that it dies much easier. Day 37 had 4 flags with Gargs, but 4 columns of Sweetheart Snares, 2 columns of Nightcaps, and 2 columns of Levitators were enough to power through them with surprising ease. Afterwards, I chose Hocus Crocus, because if I ever lose Levitator, Hocus Crocus will be the plant to replace it. Day 38, nothing had changed in the strategy and difficulty, so we easily beat it, and afterwards chose Fume Shroom. Day 39, I brought in both Levitator and Banana Launcher, and replaced Blover, because this level had Gargs, Cannons, but no Parrots. 3 launchers were enough for the cannons, and the rest of the back 2 lanes were for Levitators who take care of the Gargs. After day 39, I thought I would have to stop micromanaging because I'd gotten Bamboo Spartan, who does very good damage but has much more health than Head Butter Lettuce, and when its shield breaks it literally does 105 damage compared to Head Butter Lettuce's 100. But day 40 heavily proved me wrong, as I planted a full column of Bamboo Spartan and then the Parrot started to come in, and for some reason he couldn't hit them. Thankfully I'd brought in Blover, which was getting rid of the Parrots until one perfectly blended in with the other zombies and my plants, targeting this top lane Bamboo Spartan, and by the time I realized it was there, it was too late, and there went Bamboo Spartan. Bro survived 1/3 of a level. Granted, half of it was my fault, but also it was Bamboo Spartan's fault for not being able to hit the Parrots while the other melee plants can. RIP Bamboo Spartan. I quickly placed a Nightcap in its place and then laser focused on stopping the Parrots by using the Blovers. Also, we've been losing a lot of good plants this run, but keep in mind that we still have that Intensive Carrot token that can revive one of our dead plants if we happen to get Intensive Carrot. Also, I was able to beat the rest of this level without any casualties. After day 40, I chose another Head Butter Lettuce replacement, Wasabi Whip, who, by the look of its design, should be able to hit the Parrots. Day 41, I was truly terrified of the Parrots, so I went to the PvZ wiki for help, and in the Parrot's list of weaknesses I saw something. It said that Boinksetta could instantly destroy any Parrot, and my mind assumed, oh, you only have to place down one and it'll destroy any Parrot on the map. Was Boinksetta once again gonna be my savior? No. It wasn't. It can only target the Parrots in its lane, and also it uses up a whole attack, which then it has to recharge, and sometimes it isn't fast enough. What was cool though, and for some reason this had completely slipped my mind, Boinksetta can launch the zombies into the water. I wish Levitator did the same thing. We beat day 41 and Boinksetta was put aside, because as I foreshadowed one level earlier, I was given the option of Intensive Carrot, whose token I immediately used on Head Butter Lettuce. Oh, and I'll give Intensive Carrot the name Savior, as it saved this run and the GOAT Head Butter Lettuce. By day 42, the difficult part of the Nuzlocke is now over, which is building a strategy good enough to beat the rest of the run. So from now on, I'll be super speeding through any levels that I feel don't really need any explanation. From days 42 to 55, I used basically the same exact strategy, starting the level off with 2 columns of Primal Sunflowers, then placing a column of Head Butter Lettuce alongside Sweetheart Snare, after which I would begin to add Nightcaps. And that was the extent of it. The only difference would be on Gargantua levels, where I would replace the 2 back layers of Primal Sunflowers with Levitators. That was day 55. I stopped super speed here because after day 55 we'll get Blockly, who is a plant of importance a little later on. Day 56 again was an easy level. After day 56 we also got Pokra, another semi-important plant for later on, again naming her Mantis. Day 57 I was starting to get a little bored, so I chose to swap out Nightcap for Pokra just to see if it was any good, and honestly it did its job. But the Nightcap just seemed easier. Afterwards I got Aloe. Day 58 I went back to the Nightcap. Day 59 was also an easy level, and afterwards I got Enlightenment, another important plant. Well named Sun, but with the note. Days 60, 61, and 62 were all simple levels. After day 62, it was the return of Steve, who actually made me want to change up the strategy a little bit and test out the one from the last Nuzlocke, which I mostly copied, but replaced Head Butter Lettuce with Blockly, just to see how it would do. And honestly, it held up pretty well. I plant fooded a couple Blockly because I thought they were low on health. This guy has one of my favorite transformations with the shields on both sides. It just looks so cool. There was a problem within this level though that I didn't realize until way later on. There were no Parrots on this level, which I hadn't clocked in my mind, so it just seemed like Blockly was good enough for third column duty. But this small mental mistake would cost me heavily later on. But that's for the future, because in the present, day 63 was beat. After day 63, I chose Peppermint. On day 64, I decided to try another semi-different strategy with Wasabi Whip instead of a headbutter lettuce. And I had brought Boom Balloon Flower, who I only used for like a portion of this level because it kinda sucked. Wasabi Whip on the other hand was actually pretty good at this job, and its range comboed well with the Sweetheart Snare and Nightcap. I do think Headbutter Lettuce is still a little better because of its health and the butter stall. After day 64, I chose Mega Gatling P. Day 65, I bought an Ice Weed instead of Sweetheart Snare because the level didn't have any barrel rollers or gargantuars, and it did its job pretty well for the circumstances, but obviously if the barrel rollers and gargs were here, it would immediately get destroyed. After day 65, I chose Dustclobber. Day 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, and 76 are beaten using the God combo and no plant losses. Day 77, however, was a little different because I know there are many Mega Gatling P Glazers out there. And I know this because I, myself, am one of them. So I put the P-Vine Gatling P Torchwood combo to test to see if maybe it was better than the Nightcap. I brought in the normal strategy just in case this one flopped though. It was starting off okay with of course Headbutter Lettuce because it's necessary at this point, but as soon as I started using the P strategy, everything started falling apart. And it wasn't because of the damage, because the damage was really good. It was just the insane cost to pull this strat off. It was basically 700 sun per lane compared to Nightcap's 300. And tragically, as I abandoned the strategy, I lost Torchwood and then quickly shoveled the other two as well, which definitely counts as deaths because they were in danger. I had to sacrifice them so that I could place Headbutters and Nightcaps to at least save my Primal Sunflowers. And with the normal defense, this level was beat pretty easily. After day 77, I chose Lightning Raid. Days 78 and 79 were beat using the normal strategy. And then afterwards, I got a Zap power-up, which I don't actually end up using since power-ups are against the rules, but let me know if I should allow the power-ups I get from cards. This was my first time getting one of these in the challenge, so I didn't know what to do with it. Days 80, 81, 82, 83, and 84 were easily beaten. But day 85, things got a little shiesty. I brought in the same God combo, but I hadn't properly gotten down my Sweetheart Snares in this middle lane, which normally isn't a problem because the Gargs either get levitated or stunned by the Headbutter Lettuce. But for some reason this time, neither did their job, and this Gargantuar was able to sneak through and take out one of the Headbutter Lettuces. For the second time, RIP Will Smith. Losing maybe the most important plant this far into the run felt disastrous, and honestly I thought I had sold the entire run. But as the rest of this level was being beat, I knew there were still those replacements that I had been previously testing out. So I brought one of them into day 86, Blockly. And remember that small dialogue I gave about Blockly and how I thought it was really good, but in reality it hadn't even been put up against the devil? Well, the devil was in this level. And I'll just let you see for yourself why I called the parrot the devil. Yep, it took all the Blockly. Oh, and don't worry, it gets even worse. They took all but two of the Primal Sunflowers. GG's bro. RIP to these two. And you can tell I was in awe because I just sat there staring at the bag of coins for like a good 20 seconds. Day 87, I actually regained some hope because I realized that I still had Pokra to replace the Will Smith and also Sunshroom to replace the Primal Sunflower. So not all was lost, and we still had a chance. Pokra was able to beat anything that got close pretty easily, and all the other plants of course did their normal jobs. The sun efficiency felt a little slower with Sunshroom, but it was still good enough to prepare the defenses in time and properly. Day 88 again was a single flag level and it was beat without issues. We're on day 89, and as I'm writing the script I did realize something. I didn't count the imitator as dying when the Primal Sunflower was taken out, mainly because it just didn't click in my mind. So I'll ask y'all, should it count as a death for imitator, or should it just count for the plant that's being imitated? I'm leaning more towards that it should count as the imitator dying as well, but let me know in the comments. With that, day 89 was beat. And to be honest with y'all, even though we lost Will Smith and Primal Sunflower, the strategy was still good enough to carry me through the rest of this run. So I'm super speeding all the way to day 100. And here we are, day 100. And of course, in normal fashion, I have to pull out my ult. And that was all of day 100. And afterwards we had some abysmal options, so I chose the freakiest looking one, Tomb Tangler. That's the end of the challenge. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Okay, bye bye.